Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon. Claire goes out with Kyle, and Diane learns Victor's targeting Jack. All products and services featured are independently chosen by editors. However, soaps.com may receive a commission on orders placed through its retail links, and the retailer may receive certain auditable data for accounting purposes. At the club, Nikki and Jack spot each other. She notes he hasn't called. He says, "Ringer on my phone works." She smiles, touch. Nikki says she feels strong, and Jack hopes her new sponsor is giving her the support she needs. Nikki admits she hasn't replaced him yet. Her outpatient treatment is serving her right now. She announces she's ready to go back to Newman Media. Jack feels that's empowering. Nikki complains that Victor's fighting her on it. It's infuriating and exhausting. Jack hopes he'll come around soon. Nikki hopes things have calmed down between him and Diane. Jack confides that Diane was furious about what happened that night. Nikki figures she's the reason he decided not to continue as her sponsor. She can't hold it against her. Jack swears they've moved past that conflict, but there's another one. He tells her about Diane and Kyle's troubles, which are tearing him apart. Nikki urges him to tell her about it. He can lean on her as she did on him. Jack explains that Kyle was telling the whole world he was better at Diane's job than she was, and she didn't take it well. Jack says he's overreached and Diane felt she had no choice but to fire him. Nikki gawps, "My God." Jack wishes he'd intervened. Maybe he could have stopped things from going this far. Nikki's surprised to hear Kyle may have already found a new job, but he won't say where. At Crimson Lights, Michael treats Diane to a chai latte. She was happy to get his call as she needed someone to vent to today. "I fired Kyle from Jabbit this morning." Michael's surprised. That couldn't have been easy. Diane admits Jack was not pleased, but she had no choice as Kyle was determined to prove he's better at her job than she is. Michael thinks it will be good for him to reflect, but Diane thinks he's already landed another job. It almost sounds like he welcomed being cut loose. Michael muses that the timing is interesting. He has a sneaking suspicion that Kyle's new job can be traced right back to Victor. Diane gawps, "You think Kyle is going to work for Victor Newman?" Michael thinks there's a connection. After Victor fired him, his loyalty test was to rekindle his friendship with her. Diane asks how that benefits Victor. Michael doesn't know. She fumes that Michael's pretending to be her friend while pumping her for information for Victor. Michael wouldn't tell her this if he didn't think of her as a true friend. He'd never help his boss plan an attack on her. "I don't think you're the target." Diane snaps that Victor clearly has an agenda. Michael confides that he also asked Cole to cozy up to Kyle. Why would he do that? He muses, "What's the common denominator between you and Kyle?" Diane gawps, "Of course. Jack." Diane says Victor's hatred of Jack is epic. Is this really war again? Michael thinks the peace was tenuous at best. He can't stop spinning scenarios in his head, and none of them are good. Diane knows Victor was furious over Jack popping pills with Nikki. He made a big point of sitting her down and telling her how it was a betrayal. At the tack house, Victoria compliments Cole's tea making. He says he could teach her, but she prefers him serving her. Claire says they're adorable. Cole wants to have a family dinner, but Claire says they'll have to go without her. "I have other plans." Victoria's happy she's making friends and asks if she's meeting Maria. Victoria's face falls when she says her plans are with Kyle. She asks if this is a date and Cole complains he hasn't even had a drink with this young man yet. Claire says it's not a date. She overheard a heated conversation between Kyle and Summer earlier and he wanted to talk to her about it. Victoria doesn't think she should get in the middle of it. Claire isn't worried. She gets up and says, "You two have a lovely dinner without me," as she leaves. Cole guesses Victoria is worried. She says, "Oh, absolutely." In the park, Kyle and Audra tell Victor that they've smoothed out their differences and are happy to be working together. Victor thought they would get there and is happy to hear Kyle's out of Jabbit completely. Audra wants to put out a press releases about Glissade's new team and Victor tells them to keep his name out of it. The mystery investor will remain a mystery. Kyle asks why he wants to remain anonymous. He doesn't understand the secrecy. Victor just wants Glissade to succeed on its own merits and yours. Kyle's having trouble believing this is a selfless gesture. Victor respects Kyle's skepticism, which is indicative of an active mind, but he wants him to redirect his mind to Glissade. With that, he walks off. Audra warns Kyle not to disrespect the person who signs his paycheck. Kyle tells her he and Victor go way back. Audra doesn't care about his motives and wants Kyle to let it go. They bicker about his reasons for leaving Javit. Kyle thinks Victor is taking advantage of it, but he couldn't have known how he felt before he offered him the job. He thinks it has to do with his father and Victor is up to something. Audra wonders if he'll go running back to his position in his family business. Kyle wants Glissade's success. If that impacts Javit, so be it. At Society, Claire meets up with Kyle, who tells her things got even more complicated after he saw her. First, he explains that Summer wants to revisit their custody arrangement. Claire guesses it's because of her. Kyle admits she's not getting used to her being Harrison's nanny as quickly as he thought she would. She asks if she's getting fired. Kyle says, of course not. He says Summer doesn't like his business move and that's part of it. Summer doesn't like who I'm going into business with, a woman named Audra Charles. Claire knows her from Newman Media. She got the sense she didn't trust her, but she had good reason. Kyle says she runs a cosmetics company and he knows the industry. Claire asks why this would bother Summer. Kyle explains he and Audra have a tumultuous history. Claire learns Diane fired Kyle and thinks this all makes more sense. Giving him unsolicited advice, she warns that revenge is never worth it. At the tack house, Victoria tells Cole she can't shake this concern that she has about Claire. Cole points out that she was excited about dinner with Kyle. Victoria doesn't want her getting caught in the middle of something messy. Clearly there is a conflict between Kyle and Summer. Custody battles and divorces can get ugly. Summer's never trusted Claire, and she doesn't see this ending well. Cole says it's none of their business. Victoria argues it is if Claire gets caught up in it. Cole says they have to let their daughter make her own choices. Victoria feels they have to try and undo some of the damage Jordan did to her. They need to steer her away from conflict. Cole says she's right, but part of that is leading by example. They have to teach her to enjoy the here and now and not spin worst-case scenarios. Tonight they need to let her enjoy dinner with a friend. At Society, Kyle tells Claire that his mother firing him was the best thing that could have happened. He rescued a deal that she was about to botch and she covered it up by firing him. This way, he can leave the company without guilt and show the world what he can do. He wants to celebrate his day of liberation. At Crimson Lights, Diane tells Michael she knew Victor was pushing her buttons, but she was upset with Jack already. She expected better of him. Victor was right. She did feel betrayed. Michael thinks Victor goaded her into arguing with Jack. Diane denies she was swayed by Victor, but admits that knowing Jack's not Nikki's sponsor anymore helps. Michael is trying to see if Victor's plan is working. Diane tells him things are solid between her and Jack. He's relieved. Diane thought the whole point of befriending her was to further Victor's agenda, so why is he telling her all of this? Michael feels he may have to save her from herself. Besides, she's turned her life around and doesn't need Victor to implode it now. Just then,